Let's face it, conflict is a part of life. Whether it's at work, with family, or even just in a casual conversation, we've all been there. Someone says something that hits a nerve, a disagreement spirals, or tensions rise to a boiling point. And in those moments, how many times have you wished you had a better way to handle it? Something that actually works, instead of just going in circles. If you're tired of the drama, the frustration, and the stress that comes with unresolved conflict, then this video is for you. Because today, we're diving into pragmatic solutions that cut through all the noise and give you real, actionable tools to deal with conflict in a way that actually leads to peace. I'm talking about practical, down-to-earth strategies you can apply right now to turn those frustrating situations around. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just strategies that'll make a difference. If you're ready to stop letting conflict control you and want to take charge of how you respond, stick around. This isn't just another conflict resolution video. This is about changing how you approach life's toughest moments. Let's jump in. Number 1. The reverse apology approach. Sometimes the best way to win an argument is by losing it on purpose. Sounds strange, right? Stay with me here. Picture this. You're in the middle of a disagreement, tensions are high, and the conversation is spiraling into a blame game. Your instincts tell you to fight your corner, prove your point, and defend yourself at all costs. But what if I told you the most powerful thing you can do in that moment is to apologize, even if you're not the one at fault? Yes, trust me on this. I call it the reverse apology approach, and it's about flipping the script in a way that's as disarming as it is effective. We've all been there, arguing with a partner, co-worker, or friend, and neither side wants to budge. You know the type, the "I'm right and you just don't get it" face-off. It feels like the more you push your point, the more the other person digs in their heels. The conflict goes nowhere, and you're left feeling frustrated and unheard. It's exhausting, right? But here's the twist. What if, instead of pushing harder, you let go of the tug-of-war rope entirely? That's where the reverse apology comes in. The strategy is simple but powerful. You apologize first. Yes, even if you feel you're not in the wrong. You say something like, "You know what? I'm sorry if I came across as dismissive earlier. That wasn't my intention. Now I know what you're thinking. Why should I apologize if it's not my fault? Isn't that letting them win?" Here's the psychological magic behind it. An unexpected apology catches people off guard. It lowers their defenses and shifts the energy of the conversation from confrontation to collaboration. Suddenly, they're not fighting against you, they're engaging with you. Let me share a quick story. A few weeks ago, I had a disagreement with a co-worker over a project deadline. We both felt justified in our positions, and the tension was palpable. Instead of doubling down, I paused and said, "You know, I think I might have been too focused on my timeline and didn't fully consider your perspective. I'm sorry about that." Her reaction? A complete 180. She admitted she'd been feeling overwhelmed and apologized for being short with me. That one moment of humility diffused the entire situation, and we ended up finding a solution together. No resentment, no lingering frustration. This isn't about being a pushover. It's about reclaiming your peace and shifting the power dynamic in a way that works for you. When you lead with an apology, you're showing emotional intelligence and strength, not weakness. You're choosing resolution over ego. And guess what? Most of the time, people respond with humility of their own, creating a space for real connection and understanding. So next time you're in the heat of an argument, try the reverse apology. It's not about backing down, it's about stepping up. Your space, your peace, your dignity, they're worth it. And sometimes the strongest move is the one that surprises everyone, including yourself. Number 2, silent treatment. Reset. Sometimes the best way to fix a conflict is to say nothing at all. I know, that probably sounds counterintuitive, right? But trust me on this. Sometimes silence is the loudest tool you have in your emotional toolbox. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't silence passive-aggressive? Aren't I just avoiding the issue? But here's the thing. Silence, when used correctly, isn't avoidance. It's a powerful reset button that gives everyone involved a chance to breathe, reflect, and recalibrate. We've all been there. A disagreement with a friend, a partner, or even a co-worker. The words are flying, tempers are rising, and the more you try to speak your truth, the further you drift apart. You know the type. You both want to be right, and neither side is willing to back down. It's exhausting. But here's a secret. The moment you realize the conversation is going nowhere, it's time for a silent treatment reset. This isn't about shutting someone out forever. It's about using a pause to change the entire dynamic. Here's how it works. When you hit that emotional wall, when you sense that the conflict is escalating but no one is listening, choose silence over words. You don't have to storm out or make it dramatic. Simply stop speaking. This moment of silence isn't a punishment. It's a conscious decision to remove yourself from the heat of the moment and give everyone the space to cool off. The psychological effect? It forces both parties to sit with their emotions. It disrupts the cycle of back and forth and, ironically, gives the other person a chance to reflect on what they've said and how they've said it. Let me give you a real example. I was in a meeting a while ago with a colleague who kept interrupting me, and honestly, it was getting under my skin. I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated, but instead of raising my voice, which was tempting, trust me, I just stopped talking. It was like the room froze. For a few seconds, no one spoke. My colleague, who was clearly expecting me to react, looked at me, puzzled. I stayed calm, letting the silence linger just long enough for him to realize that this wasn't going the way he planned. And then, just like that, the tension broke. He apologized for interrupting, and the rest of the meeting went smoothly. I didn't have to argue, didn't have to make a scene. Silence did the heavy lifting for me. Now let's talk about why this works. The silent treatment reset isn't about avoiding the issue. It's about creating the emotional distance needed to reset your mental state. In those moments, we often feel pressured to respond, to explain, to justify our feelings. But that pressure only fuels the conflict. By stepping back, you're signaling that you value the conversation enough to not let it spiral into something it doesn't need to be. It's a form of emotional self-care. It's about reclaiming your peace and giving everyone the chance to reflect on what really matters. So next time you feel yourself getting pulled into a heated exchange, take a deep breath and let the silence do its work. It's not weakness, it's strength. It's not avoidance, it's empowerment. Your peace, your dignity, and your mental clarity are worth far more than a battle of words. Number 3, the truth bomb compromise. Sometimes the best way to resolve a conflict is to drop a truth bomb. I know, that sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But trust me, this strategy is far more effective than playing it safe or dancing around the issue. You see, what people really need in an argument isn't more sugar-coated words or endless attempts at diplomacy. They need the cold, hard truth. And while that might sound like an emotional grenade, hear me out. The truth bomb compromise is about cutting through the fluff and getting to the core of what's really going on. You've been there, right? Stuck in a conversation where everyone's tiptoeing around the issue, avoiding the uncomfortable facts, trying to be nice or politically correct. But the result? Nothing changes. No progress, no resolution. You know the type. The kind of argument where you end up talking in circles, only to realize that you're both avoiding what really needs to be said. It's frustrating, But here's where the truth bomb comes in. Instead of circling the issue, drop a statement that's so direct, so honest, that it can't be ignored. Yes, it might be a little uncomfortable, but that's exactly the point. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what if I hurt their feelings? Or won't that just make things worse? Well, here's the thing. Sugarcoating the truth only prolongs the conflict. Avoiding the issue never solves anything. So, the next time you're in a tough conversation, don't shy away from the hard truths. Instead of talking in vague terms or offering up passive-aggressive comments, take a deep breath and just say it. The psychological beauty of this approach is that it clears the air instantly. People can't argue with the truth. It forces them to confront what's really at stake, and more often than not, it opens the door to a genuine, productive conversation. Let me give you a quick example. A few months ago, I had a conversation with a close friend. We'd been tiptoeing around a disagreement for weeks, each of us skirting the real issue. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, so I dropped the truth bomb. I think you're avoiding me because you're mad at me for something I don't even know about. Simple, directer, a little scary, sure, but the moment I said it, the floodgates opened. She admitted that she had been feeling neglected, and that was why she'd been distant. That single sentence shifted the entire dynamic of our friendship and allowed us to work through the issue. No more guessing, no more avoiding. It was just out in the open. Here's the thing. The truth bomb compromise isn't about being rude or harsh. It's about being real. It's about cutting through the noise and getting to the heart of the matter. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also necessary. And the best part? Once the truth is on the table, you can actually solve the problem instead of just spinning your wheels. The next time you're stuck in a conflict, consider dropping a truth bomb. Don't hold back out of fear of discomfort. By doing so, you're reclaiming your peace, your time, and your emotional energy. After all, your space, your peace, your dignity are far too valuable to spend them dancing around the truth. Number 4, emotional blackout negotiation. Ever felt like someone's pulling the emotional strings in a conversation, pushing you to react while they stay calm and collected? It's frustrating, right? But here's the thing. What if I told you that you don't need to play their game? You don't need to meet their emotional energy with the same intensity. Instead, you can hit them with an emotional blackout negotiation, a strategy that's all about keeping your emotions in check and, in doing so, regaining control. Yes, I know it sounds like some Jedi mind trick, but trust me on this, it works. We've all been there, haven't we? A conversation or argument where someone tries to push your buttons, hoping to provoke an emotional reaction. You know the type. The ones who love to escalate things, maybe make you feel guilty or angry, or try to get you to back down with a well-placed jab. You can almost feel the heat of the moment rising, but instead of giving in, you can choose to take the high road. By engaging in emotional blackout negotiation, you essentially shut down their ability to manipulate your emotions. No, it's not about being cold or detached. It's about creating space to think clearly, make rational decisions, and stay in control. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But isn't this just suppressing your feelings? Won't that make things worse? No, hear me out. The reason this works is that people can't manipulate you if you don't react. It's like trying to start a fire without any fuel. When someone is pushing your buttons, instead of reacting with anger, frustration, or guilt, you pause. You take a deep breath. You remain neutral. This sends a powerful message that they no longer have the emotional leverage they're used to. The beauty of this strategy lies in its simplicity. You refuse to be the emotional pawn in their game. Let me give you a quick story. A while back, I was in a tense conversation with a coworker. They were throwing out all sorts of guilt trips and passive-aggressive comments, clearly trying to get under my skin. Normally, I would have reacted, maybe even gotten defensive. But this time, I decided to go for an emotional blackout. I didn't give in to the pressure. Instead, I just stayed calm, kept my answers short, and didn't feed into their emotional outbursts. The more they tried to provoke me, the more they realized they weren't getting the reaction they were hoping for. They started to fumble, and the conversation lost its momentum. By the end, they were exhausted from trying to get a rise out of me, and I was in control of the situation. The real power of emotional blackout negotiation is how it protects you. It's not about being a robot or avoiding your feelings. It's about reclaiming your space. It's about protecting your peace and dignity. You don't need to explain yourself or justify your emotions to anyone. By staying emotionally neutral, you create room to think, to assess the situation, and to choose how you respond, without being manipulated or coerced into reacting. So, next time you're faced with a conversation that's designed to trigger you, try the emotional blackout negotiation. It's about taking back control, protecting your emotional space, and walking away from the conversation with your dignity intact. After all, your space, your peace, and your dignity are worth far more than a temporary emotional win. Number 5. The mirror their madness tactic. Ever been stuck in a conversation where someone's throwing accusations, tantrums, or just general chaos your way? It's like they're trying to suck you into their emotional storm, right? But what if I told you there's a way to beat them at their own game? I'm talking about the mirror their madness tactic. Yes, it sounds counterintuitive, but trust me, this one can work wonders, especially when someone's trying to push your buttons. You see, it's not about getting into their emotional roller coaster. It's about matching their energy, but in a way that throws them off balance. You know the type, the ones who act all high-strung, overreact to every little thing, or even try to manipulate the situation. They love to draw you into their world of chaos. It's exhausting, right? You've probably been there, forced to deal with someone who just won't let up. But here's the catch. When you mirror their behavior, you not only throw them off guard, but also regain control. Now, before you raise an eyebrow and think, "Isn't that just lowering myself to their level?" hear me out. This tactic isn't about being petty or rude. It's about using their behavior as a mirror to redirect the conversation and regain power. Think about it. People like this rely on the fact that you'll respond with frustration, confusion, or an attempt to reason with them. But when you mirror their madness, you disrupt the cycle. You become the reflection of their over-the-top actions, and it forces them to confront the absurdity of their own behavior. It's like flipping the script, but in a way that makes them rethink their approach. Imagine if someone starts throwing accusations at you, and instead of getting defensive, you calmly mimic their tone or exaggerate their emotions. Suddenly, they're no longer attacking you, they're attacking themselves. It's strangely powerful. Let me give you an example. A few weeks ago, I was in a tense meeting at work. One colleague was going off on a rant, accusing everyone of dropping the ball. They were loud, dramatic, and clearly trying to create drama. Instead of getting defensive or matching their anger, I decided to mirror their approach. I raised my voice just a tad, mimicked their hand gestures, and even repeated part of their sentences with exaggerated seriousness. The room went dead silent for a moment. My colleague looked around, clearly unsure of what to do, and in that split second, the pressure shifted. The meeting ended with calm, with everyone realizing just how ridiculous the escalation had been. It worked because I wasn't trying to play by their rules. I used their own playbook to call them out. The beauty of the mirror their madness tactic is how it puts you back in control. It's not about stooping to their level or being combative. It's about reclaiming your space and redirecting the energy. You don't have to over-explain yourself, back down, or let someone's emotional tantrum dictate the flow. Instead, You let their madness reflect back on them, making them see the chaos for what it really is. So next time someone tries to drag you into their storm of negativity, try mirroring their behavior just a little, not to engage in the madness, but to disrupt it. By doing so, you're protecting your peace, reclaiming your dignity, and showing them that you don't need to play their game. You're better than that. After all, your space, your peace, and your dignity are non-negotiable. Number 6. Escalate to de-escalate. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a heated argument, just waiting for it to blow over, but instead the tension just keeps rising? You know the type, the kind of conversations where you try to stay calm, but it feels like everything you say only makes things worse. The more you try to de-escalate, the hotter it gets. Now, you might be thinking, wait, aren't I supposed to just keep it cool? Yes. Trust me on this. Escalating to de-escalate is the strategy you didn't know you needed, but it's a game changer. We've all been there, right? You're in a disagreement with someone, a partner, a friend, a co-worker, and no matter how calmly you approach it, the situation just keeps spiraling. It's like you're both locked in this emotional tug of war, and every move you make just seems to pull you deeper into the fight. Maybe you've tried staying quiet, giving space, or explaining things in a measured way, but it doesn't work. So, what if I told you that the solution could be to escalate, just a little bit, in a controlled way? Here's the thing. When emotions are running high, people are often more focused on how they feel than on the words being said. So when you mirror that intensity, without crossing the line into aggression, you force them to stop and acknowledge the situation for what it is. You're essentially creating a moment of pause. It's like flipping the script. Rather than getting caught in the whirlwind of their emotions, you turn the emotional volume up a notch to disrupt the cycle. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it works. A few months ago, I had a situation with a colleague at work. We were collaborating on a project, but the stress was mounting and frustrations started bubbling up. At first, I tried to keep things calm, hoping to smooth things over. But it was like talking to a brick wall. Nothing I said was helping. The more I stayed calm, the more my colleague got fired up. So, I decided to take a different approach. I leaned in, matched their tone, and escalated just enough to show that I wasn't backing down. I raised my voice slightly, reflected their frustration, and said, "I can't believe we're still stuck here after all this time." It wasn't shouting, but it was enough to get their attention. Suddenly, everything stopped. The intensity of the moment cracked through the tension, and we both took a beat to really look at what was happening. It wasn't a screaming match, but it was a powerful shift. Within minutes, we were able to reset, start over, and resolve the issue. By escalating the tension for a second, I created the space for both of us to breathe and get back to problem-solving mode. The beauty of this tactic is that it gives you back your power. Too often we're conditioned to back off when emotions flare, thinking that by doing so, we're being the bigger person. But sometimes, backing off just lets the other person hold all the cards. Escalating to de-escalate isn't about dominating or winning the fight. It's about reclaiming your space in the conversation and forcing both sides to recognize the emotional weight of the moment. So the next time you feel a conversation slipping into chaos, try escalating it, just a little, on your terms. Use it to disrupt the cycle of frustration and give both sides the opportunity to reset. Because at the end of the day, it's about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity. You don't have to let anyone else's emotions dictate how you respond. Instead, use this strategy to show that you can stand firm and, in doing so, create the path for resolution. Your space, your peace, and your dignity are yours to protect. Number 7, the one-sided compromise gambit. Have you ever been in one of those situations where you feel like you're constantly giving in, but you're not really getting anything in return? Maybe it's a relationship, a work situation, or even just a friend who always seems to make demands without ever meeting you halfway. You know the type, people who seem to take, but never seem to give. Now you might be thinking, shouldn't I just stand my ground and demand fairness? Yes, trust me, it's natural to want to protect your boundaries. But what if the best way to regain your power in this dynamic isn't by standing firm, but by compromising in a way that actually benefits you? Let me explain. We've all been there, right? Someone asks for your time, your energy, or your help, and you immediately think, okay, no problem, I can help. But as soon as you say yes, you start to feel like you've been left holding the bag. The next time they need something, you start to hesitate, but they have a way of making you feel guilty. You're caught in a loop where you give and they take, but it never seems to be enough. So what if you could compromise, but in a way that actually shifts the power back to you? It sounds tricky, but hear me out. The one-sided compromise gambit is about giving just enough to feel like you're being reasonable, but without losing the upper hand. Here's the twist. You're not compromising for the sake of fairness. You're compromising to create space for yourself. It's not about giving in entirely, but strategically offering something that meets the other person's needs without you giving away more than you should. The key is to make the compromise feel like a favor, but in reality, it's setting the stage for your needs to be met in return. I can think of one instance when I was dealing with a colleague at work. They were constantly piling extra tasks onto me, asking for help, but never offering anything back. At first, I thought I was being a team player, but soon I realized that I was being taken advantage of. So instead of flat-out refusing the next time they came to me, I used the one-sided compromise gambit. They asked me to cover their shift, and I said, "Sure, but only if you can do X for me next week." It wasn't anything huge, just a small favor that I knew they could easily do. They agreed without hesitation, and suddenly I wasn't the one being taken for granted. The small compromise I made created a bigger shift in the balance of our relationship. The beauty of this tactic is that it doesn't require you to be aggressive or confrontational. It's not about winning or losing. It's about establishing boundaries while still being accommodating. And here's the emotional power behind it. When you're always giving without receiving, you start to feel resentful, disconnected, and burned out. By using the one-sided compromise gambit, you're taking control of the situation without sacrificing your well-being. It's about regaining your balance, your boundaries, and your peace. So, next time you find yourself stuck in one of those situations where you feel like you're constantly being drained, try this approach. Offer a small compromise that gives just enough to make them feel like you're being flexible, but set the stage for your needs to be met. It's about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity, all while keeping the upper hand. You don't have to give everything to make it work. Just enough, in the right way, can change the game. Your space, your peace, and your dignity, protect them. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope this video gave you some fresh insights and practical tools to handle conflict in a way that actually works for you. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who could benefit from these strategies. And if you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe so you never miss out on future videos. Also, think of someone who might be struggling with conflict right now. Share this video with them. It might be just what they need to turn things around. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so leave a comment below and share how you handle conflict or any challenges you've faced. Let's keep this conversation going and support each other. Remember, conflict is a part of life, but how you handle it is up to you. So take what you've learned today, apply it, and let's start handling those everyday conflicts with more confidence and clarity. Until next time, Keep pushing forward and take control of your peace.